Check, check. Mic check. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. And we are rolling. How you doing, people out there under quarantine? So I was going about my business today, and then I came across this article from John Cho. If you guys don't know John Cho, he is a Korean-American actor of fame from the Harold and Kumar series and like things like Searching, which you should definitely check out. That's a great movie. So he's a fairly well-known Asian-American actor. And he came out with an op-ed today. I'm reading this from the Los Angeles Times. And I'd like to read it to you guys and then share my thoughts. So the op-ed is titled, "Coronavirus Reminds Asian Americans Like Me That Our Belonging is Conditional." Okay, let's see where he goes with this. "I called my parents a few nights ago to tell them to be cautious when stepping out of the house because they might be targets of verbal or even physical abuse. It felt so strange. Our roles had flipped. My plea mirrored the admonitions I received from them as a child growing up in Houston." He's from Houston. "The world, they cautioned, was hostile and it viewed us as strangers. So they warned me to stick close to my family, close to my kind. The fact that the coronavirus seems to have originated in China has spawned a slew of anti-Asian hate crimes. Across the country, Asian American parents and children are making versions of the call I made. Friends are sharing firsthand accounts of abuse on text chains and circulating articles on Facebook, always ending with the suddenly ominous, 'Stay safe.' Growing up, the assumption was that once we became American enough, there would be no need for such warnings, that we would be safe. To that end, my parents encouraged me and my younger brother to watch as much television as possible, so that we might learn to speak and act like the natives. The hope was that race would not disadvantage us, the next generation, if we played our cards right. When I became an actor, maybe as a result of all that TV and really started to work, I felt glimmers of my parents' hope coming to fruition. Doors were open, strangers were kinder. In some ways, I began to lead a life devoid of race. I can relate, but I've learned that a moment always comes along to remind you that your race defines you above all else." I don't know about that. "It might be a small moment, like a salesperson greeting you with konnichiwa, or it might be a string of moments like the press tour that Cal Penn and I took to promote Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle in 2004, a few years after 9/11. We flew across the country, New York, Chicago, Atlanta, Seattle, and it became a grim routine. Flight after flight, Cal would be pulled aside for a random search. On one leg of the tour, Cal's friend Gabe joined us, and when we hit security, Cal was selected for a search while Gabe and I flew through unscathed. We gathered our bags and waited on a bench for Cal to be released. Rummaging through his backpack, Gabe suddenly said, 'Cal's going to be annoyed.' When I looked inside, I realized why. Gabe, who is white, had gone camping recently and had neglected to remove his Rambo-sized hunting knife from his backpack. I gasped and looked at Cal, who was watching a Transportation Security Administration worker empty the contents of his bag. It was a reality check. Asian Americans are experiencing such a moment right now. The pandemic is reminding us that our belonging is conditional. One moment we are Americans, the next we are all foreigners who brought the virus here. Like fame, the model minority myth can provide the illusion of racelessness. Putting select Asians on a pedestal silences those who question systemic injustice. Our supposed success is used as proof that the system works. And if it doesn't work for you, well, it must be your fault. Never mind that 12% of us are living below the poverty line. The model minority myth helps maintain a status quo that works against people of all colors. But perhaps the most insidious effect of this myth is that it silences us. It seduces Asian Americans and recruits us to act on its behalf. It converts our parents, who in turn encourage us to accept it. It makes you feel protected, that you're passing as one of the good ones. And because the stereotypes may be complimentary, hardworking, good at math. Ooh, I don't know about that. I am not good at math. Maybe up to trig, not calculus for sure. And because the stereotypes may be complimentary, hardworking, good at math, it makes people, including us, think that anti-Asian sentiment is somehow less serious, that it's racism light. Well, it kind of is. That allows us to dismiss the current wave of Asian hate crimes as trivial, isolated, and unimportant. Consider the comedians who mock Asians but restrain themselves when it comes to other groups. Of course, with the falsely positive come the negative stereotypes. You're sneaky, you're stealing jobs, you're corrupt. After I had been busted for cheating on a Latin quiz in high school, I recall my teacher asking, "Why are Koreans such cheaters?" During times of national stress, it's these darker stereotypes that prevail. My wife's families were incarcerated in camps during World War II, even while her great uncles were serving in an all-Japanese American battalion of the U.S. Army. Vincent Chin, a Chinese American auto worker, was brutally beaten to death in Detroit in 1982, blamed for the Japanese takeover of the auto industry. And just recently, an Asian woman in Brooklyn had acid thrown at her while she was taking out the trash. Another among the skyrocketing attacks against Asians. I came to this country in 1978 at the age of 6. I was naturalized on November 21st, 1990 during the military buildup before the start of the Gulf War. I remember being surprised by the judge at the ceremony asking me whether I would defend my country in uniform if called upon. I wasn't expecting that question, though my friends and I had been wondering about a possible draft. And I took my time to truly consider it. I answered yes, and I meant it. I claim the citizenship my parents wanted for me, and I've spent my life earning it. I'm not going to let anyone tell me or anyone who looks like me that we are not really American. If the coronavirus has taught us anything, it's that the solution to a widespread problem cannot be patchwork, agreed. Never has our interconnectedness and our reliance on each other been plainer. You can't stand up for some and not for others. And like the virus, unchecked aggression has the potential to spread wildly. Please don't minimize the hate or assume it's somewhere far away. It's happening close to you. If you see it on the street, say something. If you hear it at work, say something. If you sense it in your family, say something. Stand up for your fellow Americans. All right, so another well-intentioned article from a figure in the Asian American community. You know what? I am not usually one to be opinionated on things and share things that could be viewed as somewhat political, but or controversial. I don't know. I don't care. We're here. We're stuck. We're in the coronavirus. So we've got to occupy we got to occupy our time, right? So I do feel motivated somewhat today to speak on this. I figure I might be able to because I have some Asian DNA in me, if you can't already tell. All right, so let's start. Let's sort of dissect this and where can we start? I think it's coming from a good place. I think anyone that sticks up for, a group of people who are sort of treated unfairly, right? Any group, LGBTQ, African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Middle Easterners, and Asian people. So I don't fault the intention behind that. But what are we really doing? Because we're also really pointing out that we're different, right? Creating more tribalism, and who's the most motivated bunch? Usually the racists, right? So, article like this, who is it really changing? Whose minds? Who is really being helped by this. I mean, I think by systematically and consistently pointing out our differences, we're just going to be reminded of it more often. You know, I don't have all the answers. I'm just, you know, I just don't understand the point. Where is this going to go? Pointing this out. I know he sort of like ends with a call to action, which is, you know, stick up for your fellow Americans, which is, you know, an admirable thing. And I think you maybe should do that, but you know, just broach it from a perspective of, hey, you know what? We need to get to a point where we realize we're all one family. Let's get to that point, right? Let's be vested. How do we get to the point where we're vested in each other, right? Where we are invested in each other. How do we get to that point, right? How do we get to that old kinship tribe? You know, where you have a stake holding, and these aren't my thoughts. This is out there. Jun Yoon, he's a big advocate of this, right? So how do we get back to the kinship tribe where we're invested, right? Your parents are 50% each invested into you, right? So you see some characteristics in them, some similarities, and you either push them to grow beyond some of these character defects that you guys share in common, or you're promoted because of some shared similarities that have a positive effect on your life, right? You're encouraged because of it, right? That's how it happens in family. Now, what happens here with all these different groups and you know, I mean, it goes beyond, you know, misunderstood, underrepresented, or unfairly treated groups. I mean, it's, you know, small businesses versus big businesses, right? We are living in a culture here in America where it's a competition culture, right? It's us versus them. Someone's going to win, so someone has to lose. And so, I mean, I might be like stretching the frame of his article into, you know, a more macroscopic discussion. But for me, I have never been the one, you know, like in school, I remember peers scribbling on their book covers, you know, Asian pride, and they would sub out the S with a Z or a 2, because, you know, creative like that, right? Asian pride, Asians, stick to the Asians, right? And I did have parents who didn't teach me any other language. They wanted me to, you know, I guess be accepted, right? You know, learn English. He's here. He's in America. It's best if this is what he sticks to and gets decent at, right? The English language. So I think very much I was raised with the whole let's sort of fit in, be quiet, and do your shit. But I don't know how else to you know, approach it, because if I tell you that you know, we're being treated unfairly, there's so many groups there as well that are being treated unfairly. Which group deserves our attention, our limited bandwidth, right? So in essence, I'm saying that, hey, okay, there's a whole bunch of trouble. Everyone's doing their best, and you know, creating a voice via this, you know, op-ed and what other Asian American celebrities do when they chime in on the subject of Asians in America. You know, it's not a bad thing. They're trying to do a good thing. But is there a way we can do this better? Because ultimately, right, the end game, so to speak, is getting to a point where everyone has a great life and an opportunity for a great life. And I think the only way I see it right now is to become invested in each other and realize that we're essentially all the same. I mean, come on, we got other shit to worry about. There's like asteroids just floating around, just fucking took out the dinosaurs, right? There's we're living through a pandemic, right? What's to say there's not a worse virus out there? You've seen, I mean, come on. People have been worried about this for a while now. It's revealed, right? And like, why am I the first to hear about this? Why have they been discussing it for years and years and years? And why do the super wealthy have islands with food stocked away for, you know, situations like this? I guess they were expecting it, right? I wasn't. What Joe Rogan keeps on talking about super volcanoes, right? what the heck? I didn't know I have to worry about that, but apparently I have to worry about not just volcanoes, but super volcanoes. I guess there's one in Yosemite. And what about the aliens? Right now, I've lost you all because I'm talking about aliens. But all kidding around aside, there are sort of like larger things to worry about, and even though I do feel like John Cho is accurate with his experiences, I don't think he embellished any of that, and I know that we're constantly having problems, but I just don't see how promoting it and reminding people that we're different is really going to change anything. So hopefully I get some time. Well, I have plenty of time, so I'll think about this some more. I'm curious to know what your opinions are on this, because I was never a big promoter of, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the Asian culture, I love the food. There's nothing I jokingly have a lot of like dislikes for my people. I even hate saying my people, because once again, it's like, I have a group, you might not be a part of that group, and hey, so we're different, right? But so yeah, I have fun things to say about like every group. That's just the frame of mind that I try and sort of maintain, and try and remember that we're probably more alike than you think. So who knows? Those are my thoughts. I thought it was an interesting article. You should go and check it out, and fill me in if I'm just a dumbass, or if I had a good point, or somewhere in between, or don't. That's all. All right, guys and gals, please take care, and I'll see you later.